everyone. In case it's not clear, please let me know, and I'll just try to make sure that we address the technical issues here and there. But thank you all for creating time for this session. You're all most welcome. We have about 28 in attendance, and we believe that more will be joining us in the due course. So you're all most welcome. I'm Wanok, and have been given the rare opportunity and the honor to chair and moderate this session. Thank you so much, and we shall be following the agenda as it is currently displayed on your respective screens. So today's agenda, we shall start with an opening prayer. And usually we prefer the first prayer to be Christian and then the last prayer to be Muslim. But for today's session, feel free to open whichever religion starts first. Won't be able to close because we've always had issues with the closing religion. So if you would like to take us through the opening agenda, you're all most welcome. And then we shall start officially. Feel free to unmute or just raise your hand to take us through the first item on the agenda. You're all most welcome. Just feel free. We need someone to take us through the opening item. That's the first item on the agenda, and that is an opening prayer.
Shall we pray?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Okay. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to be impacted with knowledge. Thank you for this opportunity for such a blessed session. We pray that we'll gain the benefits of this session to the full. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Felix, for blessing this session. And thank you, everyone, for creating time once again. And good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and from whichever part of the world that you're joining us from. You're all most welcome to today's session. And this is one of the many sessions that have been organized by the African chapter of the American Academy of Optometry. And today we shall be looking at something really very important and pertinent to what usually comes to the climax at the end, and that is the fellowship applications. And in order for someone to become a fellow of the American Academy of Optometry, this is one of the last steps after the other initial steps that we've been doing in order to prepare ourselves. And this year we're lucky that it will be taking place in Indiana and Indianapolis, and our goal this year is to just be able to add the I to Indy, and that will be what we shall be working on. So the few housekeeping rules for today's session: just make sure that the devices around you are all on silent mode or do not disturb mode, or whichever focus mode that you might really be relying on. And we shall be using some of the reactions that were originally provided on the Zoom platform. Feel free to use them, the raise hand, clap, or any other platform. And make sure that you stay mute throughout the course of the session, unless you're talking or unless you've been given an opportunity to ask a question. Feel free, but for now, we would appreciate if all the microphones are kept on mute to reduce on the disruption that we might have. And then as far as the videos are concerned, you're welcome to leave your videos on. That would be perfectly fine if you're completely and totally fine with it, because at the end of the day, this session is recorded and it will be shared on the various platforms. So if you're okay with having your videos on all the other platforms after this session, please feel free to leave your videos on. And during the course of the session, if you realize that maybe your video was just left on by mistake, then don't be surprised. Don't be surprised to see that it's no longer visible. We shall be in charge of turning them off from this other side. But otherwise, you're all most welcome to leave your videos on. And then the last housekeeping rule is about the recording. We all know that this session is being recorded and it has been recorded. And we believe that as you join, you consent to this. But the recording would only go as far as the guest speaker's speech. Once we reach the questions and answer session, to give everyone an opportunity to express themselves freely, we shall stop the recording, and any other discussion after that won't actually be recorded. So you're all most welcome. Thank you so much. And we are really being blessed by three great speakers. We're calling them guest speakers, but these are great speakers from the American respective sessions. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Levy, whom I believe we all familiar with. Dr. Levy is the current president of the African chapter of the American Academy of Optometry, and he will be giving us the opening remarks. Dr. Levy, you're most welcome. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Wenok, and welcome everybody to this workshop. I think it's important that we get this going because we do understand how difficult it is to get through the visa process, even when you have all your documents ready and thought things have been done properly. So we invited people who have either had experience with visa application from different countries and those who run that as a business and understand what the intricacies are for applying. So I guess there will be other times when there will be people from other countries who we may not have reached out to, and you're free to chip in at the end during the discussion how the process happens in your country. I know there are people from Malawi, Kenya, Botswana, who may have a different process than what the speakers may talk about. Please feel free to chip in during that time of discussion and tell us what the situation is in your own country, so others as well can learn from that. Thanks, Wanok, for always being there to help us do this. And I'll leave the platform now for the speakers to take us through what they have for us. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Levy, for the opening remarks. Yeah. Now, as we proceed, please, if you're joining us, our routine is always make sure you put your details in the chat, especially your email address, to enable you receive part of this recording or the presentations at the end of the session, which you might have to refer to over the course of the next few months. So you're most welcome. Put your email addresses in the chat box, and we shall proceed with the next phases of the presentation. So Dr. Levy has kept his opening remarks very short and brief, and we shall now proceed on to the most important reason as to why you're here, and that is to hear from people who are experienced in the different fields, as it has already been mentioned by Dr. Levy. And the first guest speaker is Dr. Meretti. I won't pronounce the other name for now, but yeah, Dr. Meretti is a senior lecturer from the Department of Optometry, and that is the Faculty of Health Sciences, University of Johannesburg, or some of us usually say Joburg, that's if you're from South Africa. And she's also the previous head of this department. Dr. Meretti was the immediate past president of the South African chapter of the American Academy of Optometry since 2002. She has been employed at the University of Johannesburg, which was previously known as the Rand Afrikaans University, since 1992, and she specializes in pediatric optometry. She was involved in the NECO. I believe Dr. Meretti will give us what that stands for in full. But in this, she did several years in teaching diagnostic procedures to South African optometrists to obtain diagnostic privileges until it was approved by the South African Health Professionals Council in 2002 and incorporated in undergraduate training. She is currently a member of the ethics committee of the South African Optometry Association. Dr. Meretti, thank you so much for honoring our invitation, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wanok, for such a great introduction. I really appreciate that. The NECO is for New England College of Optometry. So when we did it, it was NEWENCO. But yes, so they use that abbreviation NECO. So initially, we contracted the South African Optometric Association to assist us together with NEWENCO to start with diagnostic privileges. So that is where that involvement came from for many years. So thank you for the slides. I tried to share, and I do apologize for not being able to put on my video. So I will just ask you to forward the slides as we continue, so we can go to the next one, if you don't mind. Thank you. Now, let me see. Don't have the full screen, so I am going to go to my own slides. Wanok, and then you must just, I'm going to ask you to forward as you can. I'm using my own slides at the moment, so we'll just try to coordinate between the two of us. So initially, what Levi asked me to do is maybe go through with you in terms of the application for the visa process. And currently it's an online application. And it is a form, and I had a look at it. It may be different for other countries, but currently, according to the website, it's form DS-160, and it is a form for non-immigrant visa applications. And when you use the site, it's also not supported by Safari or Microsoft Edge. So you have to make sure that you have got a Microsoft Chrome that you can use. It is unfortunate that some of these Microsoft products don't work with the site. And obviously, we have found that if you do it from a desktop, it is easier than doing it from an iPad or a cell phone application. And I would suggest that because it's a fairly long process to go through. I had a look at the various countries. I do apologize. I heard Levi said there's Kenya as well. But the U.S. Embassy is in Botswana, is situated in Gaborone. In Malawi, it is situated in Lilongwe. In Rwanda, it is Kigali. In Zimbabwe, it is Harare. And then I've put South Africa in brackets, as it seems we don't have any applicants from South Africa. However, there is in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban, there is U.S. embassies. However, what they have indicated is if you are living in the specific country outside from where you are applying from, you may be able to use that specific embassy to make your appointment. So for somebody then from Botswana that is currently in South Africa may then make their appointments for the visas in the South African capitals. Wanok, we can go to the next slide. The most important thing for everybody is that you have to remember that you have to apply in the correct visa class as such. And your application has to be made in the business or employment class visa. It sounds weird. However, when you go through the various steps, it would indicate that it is a temporary business visit that you will make to the US. And then the subcategory under the temporary business visa will then be attending a conference. And there's two different classes. Your B1 visa is a business one, and your B2 visa is a tourism one. So obviously you're going to apply in the B1 category. However, some people may apply in both, the combination of B1, B2. In either of these, when you apply for a temporary business visa, it is for 6 months in the US and you're not allowed to work. And that is where that one came from in terms of the temporary business visa. So if we go to the next one, then it is important that you have to make sure that you're on the correct site, and it's a consular electronic application website. And as I indicated, there's a DS-160 confirmation page that you will receive when you have completed your application. And it's important to make sure that you make use of the direct embassy site, as there are some intermediaries that also may assist you with your application. And it did happen, unfortunately to me, that I actually paid the intermediary together with the US Embassy and had to ask for a refund, and that took 30 days. So make sure that you're on the correct site, the Consular Electronic Application website, and that you are busy with the correct form, the DS-160 that you need to complete. In some instances, then you will have to schedule an interview where required, and that is going to depend on how your application is completed. I'm running through this in the way that I applied as South African. However, I have verified some of this information on the US Embassy site, so it may be the same for other countries as well. So it would be your completion of your application form, and after you have done that, you will receive your confirmation page, and that is the one that you will have to forward and save when you schedule your interview. Then your next step will be your payment of your visa fee, and that is going to depend per country. So for South Africa, it was $160, so US dollars. And then obviously they will convert it into the currency of your country. And then you will schedule your visa appointment, and it would depend on here. And obviously we've got other speakers. For myself, I did not have to schedule an appointment due to the fact that I was a carrier of previous visas. I have had 3 10-year visas already. So that made the process a little bit easier. However, there might be some questions in the DS-160 form that you have to complete, which will oblige you to make the visa appointment. When I applied for 2022 in San Diego, I received my visa too late because it took 4 months to process the visa. I then had to reapply for the visa. I didn't get it in time, so I left the process. It was 4 months, and then I just decided I will not make it in time for San Diego. I reapplied then in 2023 for a new visa, and I'll explain now where the 6 months come in terms of expiry of your passport, because that is where the catch comes in. And then the waiting period for appointment in South Africa was literally 9 months. So I would have, when I applied in May of last year, would have missed New Orleans again. However, then they waived the appointment, and my visa was issued in 3 weeks. So it depends on, I think, how lucky you are and how busy your embassy would be. Wanok, you can go to the next one. So literally your requirements, and this was for South Africa, and I presume maybe for the other countries as well, you will have to have a valid passport that doesn't expire within 6 months of the date that you want to visit. So if we are looking at in Indianapolis, that's going to be November 2024. So you need to make sure that your passport is valid for after that period. And then also that you have got at least 2 pages open in your passport, and they are very, very strict in terms of the pages, because where your visa would be pasted. However, currently it is electronic, and you don't need a physical visa pasted in your passport, and that is for South Africa. I'm just speaking for us. What you would then need for your application, and I say if available, it is not necessary to have a travel itinerary when you apply. However, it is advisable if you've got some other idea in terms of when you want to depart the country and when you want to return to your country of residence. So it makes the application process just a little bit easier if you've got that information available. They also ask for specific dates, and that is why your passport is so important. If you have visited the US, you have to list at least your 5 last visits to the US, and that doesn't matter if it's been 20 years ago. They can pick that up on their system. So be truthful in terms of your application. If you've been there, there will also be a question in terms of have you ever been denied a visa, and that you also should indicate. Otherwise, it may make your process just a little bit more difficult. They may request your CV or a resume. and that is most important just to prove your employment record or the work experience and education that you have had or still busy with. And then one of the important ones is that there needs to be a valid bank account with transactions dating back 3 months. And the main reason for this is that they want to see proof that you're actually earning a salary or earning an income. And it's going to depend if that you're then working for an employer or you're an employee yourself, or if you have got your own business. But the valid bank account with transactions is very, very important. If we go to the next slide, I did cover the fact that for South Africa, we need the passport at least valid 6 months beyond your date of return. So it's not within 6 months of travel, it's beyond your return. So November, you will have to work forward to May 2025 only that your passport expires. Then what is required? One of them are still all right.
I'm trying to mute someone unmuted.
Am I muted?
No, someone unmuted, not you. Someone. Please mute yourselves.
Oh, okay,
Someone
so it's
else,
not
not you.
so.
Yeah, it's not you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So they do require on your online application for one color photograph, and I've underlined it. It says US visa photo requirements, and I will cover that now. They're quite specific in terms of how your photo should be taken, and they literally will reject that application if your photo is not of good quality and according to their guidelines. All passports that you have had in the past where you have issued visas from the US or other international trips have to be included in your application. So that would be that you will have to scan these and attach it to your application. Just to take myself for an example, I had a Schengen visa, I had a UK visa. So all of these were attached, and I went to China as well. So all of these adds to the fact that you have traveled before, and it makes it easier then in terms of an application. There's nothing wrong if you haven't had any visas or haven't traveled before. The fact is just that you have to be able to provide the necessary information that's asked. Your bank statements, I've said there in B, it is seriously important, and I'm not going to share personal experience, but let me share a personal experience. My daughter's boyfriend tried to enter the US without a valid visa, not a valid visa. He traveled on an ESTA visa, which is the one from the UK. And he arrived in the US without having a bank account in South Africa. And he was immediately deported from New York. He literally landed, he was interviewed, went to secondary, was detained and was deported back to Dubai. From Dubai, flew back to the UK and didn't even come back to South Africa. So it is important. I can't stress that enough in terms of your bank account. Any invitation letters that you have received, you can add. Or then if you have got a letter of employment, that just adds to the fact that you make your application process a little bit easier. If you will have a spouse traveling with you, you will have to indicate your marriage certificate that has to be attached. And if there's any minors that's going to travel with you, there needs to be an unabridged birth certificate as well. If we can go to the next one. And I think, let me just see. There's the photo requirements in terms of your application. It needs to be a color photo. And as I indicated, 22 millimeters to 35 millimeters, your head needs to be in as big as that. It sounds bad, but that is, they want to see your face and identifying features. It had to be taken in the last 6 months. It needs to be in front of a white or off-white background. Please make sure about that. they call it a neutral face, but you're not allowed to smile on your photo. If you have got anything covering your face, that has to be removed. You're not allowed to have any glasses on when you take this photo. Normally, they request that you wear normal work clothes. And then also what the JPEG format cannot be bigger than 1200 by 1200 pixels. If it's larger than that, they will reject the application without consideration. What they also indicated was the fact that if you are wearing hearing aids, interestingly enough, they want you to wear your hearing aids on the photograph. So what I did just quickly, and I'll run through these very, very quickly to give the other speakers chance to speak, is just one of the next slide. If you go there, I just ran through the waiting periods in terms of the various cities. So for Johannesburg, when you apply for your B1, B2 visa, 27 calendar days, you will wait to receive an appointment, and they have improved tremendously in terms of their turnaround. For when I applied, it was 230 days. So that is for Johannesburg. Then the next one I had a look for is Gaborone. They've indicated 30 days. Unfortunately, Lilongwe, Malawi, 171 days. So those of you who are from Malawi and considering to go to Indianapolis, I do think that there needs to be slight haste in that application. The next one, Kigali, Rwanda. That one is 113 days. And the last one I had a look at is Harare. And there you will wait 2 weeks for an appointment. So this is the long of the short of it. It's just that the sooner you start and the sooner you've got your documentation together, the easier the application process will be, or that you know where you are. The fact is just that you can also, when you start with your DS-160, you can save that on the system and go back and log in and complete the application. So if they ask for relevant information that you do not have available at that moment, you can save your application and re-enter the site to continue and then finally submit your documentation. But everything is submitted electronically and uploaded electronically in PDF format. That is the other thing that you have to remember. All your documents will have to be scanned. Don't know if there's any questions, but thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mareti, for a great start off for this session. You've given us a very good introduction and a very good synopsis of actually what is supposed to transpire during the visa application process. Yeah, if you have any questions, just hold on to them for now. We shall collect all the questions at once after all the three speakers have spoken. So I can see of Thomas and Tewa, your hand, just hold on to that for now, up to when we're done with the other speakers, and then we shall get back to the questions. So thank you so much, Dr. Mareti, for that comprehensive presentation.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Now we shall proceed to the next speaker, and the next speaker is Dr. Stephen Okansei from Ghana. And Dr. Stephen is a senior lecturer at the Department of Optometry and the head of Department of Physician Assistant Studies, School of Health Sciences, that's at the University of Cape Coast in Ghana. He holds a PhD in Vision Science and Optometry from the Eye and Vision Research Unit, that's in Anglia, Ruskin University in Cambridge, that's here in the UK. And he also has a master's degree in population health in Ghana. He is a doctor of optometry qualified. Sorry, just go ahead and mute yourselves, please. He's a doctor of optometry qualified to practice in Ghana and Zimbabwe with several years of clinical practice and teaching experience, having taught in Ghana and Anglia Ruskin University, Cambridge. Dr. Okansei is currently a senior lecturer in optometry and head of physician assistant studies at the University of Cape Coast. He has a broad academic training and international exposure. He has participated in interdisciplinary researches in his home country, Ghana, and elsewhere, notably the UK, and presented papers at optometry meetings. for conferences in Ghana, UK, and the USA. He has published quite a few number of scientific articles in peer-reviewed journals. So Dr. Okansei, you're most welcome, and thank you so much for accepting this invitation. Over to you, Dr. Okansei.
Thank you, Dr. Warnock, for the introduction. I see that you pulled some information about me from the internet, and just a little correction. I'm not a senior lecturer now. I'm an associate professor at the University of Cape Coast, and I'm also no more the head of department for the Physician Assistant Studies program. I've completed my term as the head of department. I'll give you the the latest update, maybe at the time, but so those are the corrections. Yes, and thank you for the introduction. I see that Dr. Mariki have really gone through the process of the visa application very well. And I must say that it looks like there are quite similarities across the various countries in terms of the requirements to obtain the visa. But I also do recognize that if you look at the participants for this forum, we have some fellows, some mostly fellow candidates, and then some optometry students. And I think that most of us have various degrees of experience in terms of attending international conferences and then traveling to foreign countries. So I think that it's most important that we look at the steps, one has to take to be able to, secure your visa and also prepare adequately for the conference. So I'll be looking at, my presentation will actually address those issues. So if I may have the permission to share my screen.
Yeah, go on, Steve.
Okay. Okay, share screen. Just a bit.
Not yet.
No, it's talking.
Yeah, thank you so much. As we wait for Dr. Kansei, Associate Professor, my apologies again, to share his screen, please feel free to put your details in the chat. And if you have your questions already and you feel like you might forget them along the way, you can as well start putting them in the chat as well. Some questions will be answered in due course in the chat as well. But just take note of those questions as we shall get back to all of them.
So it's asking me to open system preferences.
System preference, let me first. Dr. Levy, maybe we should make him a co-host. That will make it easier.
Was it asking system preferences or?
Yeah, we just did. See whether you're able to share now.
Okay. Dr. Stephen, should we give some little time? And then,
A little bit. I think,
yeah, the other option would be, yeah, you could send the slide by email
Yeah.
on chat, and then we can actually share it from this side. That would also work.
Let me try that.
Let's share it by email, and then we should be able to project, and then we can proceed with that. And then for the meantime, if it's okay with you, Dr. Okanta, is it okay if we
So
speak up
maybe
now?
we could go ahead with the Meraki questions so that
Oh.
I try to email mine, right?
Okay, because the other option is we can go to the other speaker first and then come back after sorting out this. That's also the other option that we could consider. Then we can get all the questions at once. But yeah, thank you so much. We shall be working on the technicalities in the background to sort that out. Great. Dr. Levy, you have the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. And for the meantime, yeah, we can take some questions for Dr. Maritzi. She's ready as well. Just one question as we try to sort this out. Just one question for now. Optom Asantewa, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Please, I wanted to know if you are working, but your salary does not go through a bank. Maybe it's physically given to you. Can I deposit the money into my own account to help me with getting a bank statement later for the visa application?
Very good question, Asante. I think it's very, very important, and that this is a measure that the US do use, is that you have to prove that there's a regular income, a monthly income. So even if you then receive your salary directly and not through your bank account, I would suggest you do exactly that: is take your salary and deposit into your account, or create, because there needs to be proof that there's an income, because that is the main thing for them in the application, is that you do not come to the US and that you may be stuck there and not return your country of residence. So it's very, very important to establish a tracking history in a way, specifically with a bank. A letter of your employer will assist in this matter, where they can indicate this is your salary or whatever. But I would suggest that you, as soon as possible, do that and establish that there's a regular proof of income.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maritzi, for that. So as we wait for Dr. Stephen Okansa, we shall proceed to the next speaker for now, and then we shall come back again from where we shall continue from this particular point. The next speaker, I believe many of our attendees from Nigeria might be familiar with. That is Dr. Chara. And Dr. Chara is a senior optometrist and also the managing director of Just Vision Eye Center, which has 2 branches in Lagos and over 30 years experience in optometry. She's a fellow of the Nigerian Optometry Association, past secretary and assistant secretary of the Nigeria Optometry Association, the Lagos branch. She's presently the chairperson, Women Optometrists in Nigeria, which is abbreviated as WAN, and that's the Lagos branch. She writes Chara Travel Corner, and we believe because of this, she's one of the most important people we had to have on this particular platform. And Chara Travel Corner is a travel page on WAN Iris magazine. A seasoned traveler, she serves as a travel consultant for WAN National and has packaged several travel destinations for WAN and other groups. Born out of her passion for travels, and started Chara Travels and Tours in 2019, a company that consults and handles everything relating to travels for its clients, from consultancy, advisory, bookings, travel visas and insurance, accommodation and excursions. Her mantra is, you travel not to escape life, but for life not to escape you. It's borrowed from an anonymous source. And because of this diverse background, I believe you don't have any questions as to why we had to have Dr. Chara on board. Dr. Chara, you're most welcome. The floor is yours, and Dr. Levy will share the screen.
Thank you, Wanok. It's great to be here. Okay, so can we start the sharing of the, okay, thank you. So the first question is, what do I need to do, or where do I start from when you think of your US visa in Nigeria? Dr. Richard from South Africa has actually done most of the work for me, so I basically will run through what I have written. In Nigeria, we have two centers or two locations, Lagos and Abuja. What that means that wherever you find yourself in Nigeria, whether you are in Benin City or you are in Port Harcourt, you have to come to either Lagos or Abuja. And basically, I divided them into two sets of group. Okay, so first and foremost, you need an international passport, like Dr. Richard said, with at least 6 months validity on it, and with 2 blank sheets. I've had a situation where I submitted my passport and had to be called back to go and get a new passport because I didn't have any free sheet, or I had just 1 free sheet and they were not ready to take that. So you must have at least 2 or 3 blank sheets that the visas can be issued on. So I'm talking to 2 sets of people. The renewal, which I basically already know what to do because you've processed your visa in the past, you've renewed your visa, and what you do is just go online, apply for a renewal, get an appointment, and all you need to do is submit your passport at the DHL office in any of the branches that the American Embassy has specified. But if you are a first-time applicant, I'm going to group you in 3 groups. You've never applied before, or you applied in the past, but you were refused a visa, or you had a visa that expired 4 years. The last issue date was 4 years ago. You will have to go for a full interview at the American Embassy. So you go on their website, which is shown on the screen. Can we go to the next page, please? Yes. So I'm breaking it down into segments the way when you go online, you get the form. When you start the process, you will see that there is what they call the application ID. And you will have some few questions that you need to put an answer. The reason for this is like a test question. When you probably get tired, or you get to a point where you need to get some documents, or you need to wait and get more documents or evidence together, you have the liberty to come back after a day or after 2 days. And one of the things you must note is that there's a saver. Like when you finish answering the first page, at the bottom of the screen, you have the opportunity to save all that you have answered, because if you do not save it, it means that you are going to come back and start answering all the questions again. And then the test questions you'll be asked at the beginning. Okay, so I'll give a typical example. They might ask you, what city did you grow up in? And you write maybe like, I grew up in Benin City. If I put Benin City and I come back like 2 days after and I'm trying to answer that question, and I put Benin, that I will not be able to go back into the visa application form. So make sure that whatever answer you put down is something that you can easily remember, so that you can always continue your application whenever you come back, and start, from where you stopped. Okay, so the first section at the when you fill the visa application form, you have your personal details. It talks about your name, your date of birth, whether you're a male or you're female, whether you're married or divorced, and all of that. You fill all of that. Then you have the address. Address has to do with where you stay. You give your address, mailing address. Is it the same with the home address? Your phone numbers, try as much as possible. If you have filled in the past, to maintain this, a level of integrity of being seen to be upright. So you try to be consistent in your answers. So you put your phone numbers down, and then your passport information is very vital, where the date of issue, the date of expiration, your passport numbers, and all of that. And then something they started doing not too long ago is about your social media handle. They ask you to put down whether you're on Facebook, your name, on your details on Facebook or Instagram, and all of that. And it's very important, because most times, you know, you go talking on some of this social space, you say something about, oh, jackpine and all of that. You know, all they need to do is just go on that space and they get all the information they need about you. Or you have maybe your wife already there, or you say you are not married and all of that. They get to find out all of that because you put your social handles, they ask for them and you need to put them. Then section 2 talks about your travel information. Now, like Dr. Richard said, they will ask you what is the purpose of your visit, which is the business and the tourist kind of visa that you require, which is the B1, B2 that you would put down on the form, or it's written there, so it's easy for you to say, this is what I'm going for. And then they ask about your travel date. In Nigeria, you need to have an itinerary in terms of, this is the day I will arrive in the US, and this is the day I am leaving. Not also just having a travel date, the location. So for the academy, I'm assuming that the academy will give details of hotels that members can use in filling, but because that is very important, you know, to give a bit of weight to the reason for travel. And then why do you intend to travel? You know, the hotel you are going to stay. And then not just, if you were going to leave Indianapolis and go somewhere else, you need to give that information to them. But you don't need to say, oh, I'm going to go to New York and then from there to California. No, you don't need to reel out all the different places. Just give a second place to say, oh, I would like to go to so and so place, you know, for tourists. So yes, you are going on a business visa, but it's the combination of B1, B2, which is the business tourist visitor visa that you need. So, and it's a non-immigrant visa and it's temporary because you're just going there. You'll be given a time to stay up to 6 months, but you'll be foolish to stay 6 months because anybody that does 6 months, the question is, why would you leave your country and go stay 6 months in another country? So know that even if you are given that liberty, you cannot overstay. Don't stay more than a month. Worst case, 6 weeks, you're back, you know, to your country. Let's have the next slide. Okay, so your US contact information. Again, I am hoping that the reason most people will be traveling will be because of the American Academy. So probably Levi will have to explain if that will be possible, because when we go for some of the optical shows in other countries, they get like letters from the organization saying this is the reason why they are coming, for members to take to the embassy. So that would be good if the African chapter can provide that for members that are requesting to travel for the conference. And then your contact person, again, the address of the contact person, so where the organization is based and all of that. If we have a contact person there that will stand in and say, okay, these people are coming because of this and this and this, and provide phone numbers and email address, they want to verify that you are going for a genuine reason. So I think also, yeah, I think that's basically what's in that section. Section 4, yes, this talks about your family information. They want to know, even if your dad had been dead 10, 15 years, they want to know his date of birth, his name, if he's living in the US, you know. So you have someone like me writing, my dad was born in 1920 something or 19 this, and they're asking if he lives in the US and all of that, you know. So again, you answer because they want to know if you have family members, you know, living in the US, or somebody that can tie you, you know, that will keep you there, you know. So it's very important that you give the right information. They talk about your spouse, who you're married to, his details, phone number, date of birth, how you can be reached, and all of that. Those are information that you need to provide concerning your family members. And then I think that's all that is. So if you have like a brother, like a sister, like a relation that is living there, and you think, you know, there's no need hiding it because we have the same surname, it's okay to go ahead and put that person's name, you know. So that's very important. Section 5 basically talks about your work, your training, your education. They go as far as asking you the university you went to, what year, when did you start and when did you end, and all of that. What trainings have you gone to? what kind of work, are you an employee or are you an employer? Where have you worked? No, they just want to have an idea, like Dr. Richard said, if you have strong ties in Nigeria, or if you want to go there and jackpot, like, we are seeing right now in Nigeria, they want to make sure that you come back. So you need to give them information for them to know that, I mean, I live here, I work here, I'm fully settled here. There's no reason, to jackpot, Then the countries, okay, so they will ask about countries visited. Again, that's very key. If you have a travel history, it's almost like for the US Embassy, if you have a travel history, it's almost like a walkover. They basically do not really, go through so many documents because they know that you've been in and out, and you've come back and all that. So you probably will get it very easy. But that also does not take away from the fact that if you have never traveled before, that you have a genuine reason for traveling, that you will get, your visa. One of the things I keep saying is be as open as ever. If you've been refused a visa in the past, do not shy away from it. State the date why they will ask why were you refused. Tell them the reason why they refused you, because I'm sure they will always give you a reason when they refuse your visa. Put it. Do not hide. Do not change. Do not try to be funny and all of that. If they see that you are open and straight, and you are answering, with everything that is in you, you have like 100% chance of getting your visa. So when you finish answering all of this, the new process, in the past, you normally would get the bank payment before you start. But right now, all you do is an online thing. And this is because a time came where there were multiple this and all. I think the American Embassy is just trying to limit, the way we've been booking our appointments online. So when you finish, you've gone through everything, they will come out with 5 sheets of the different segments you filled, showing for you to go back and review. Do you need to change anything? You've written in error. You have the permission to do that. It doesn't mean that it's cast in stone, that you cannot change any of the things that you have written. When you have satisfied yourself that you have done everything, you've answered as truthfully as possible, you submit your form. And in submitting your form, you go to the appointment page. So in the past, you had the dates put up for you to see which is the closest date for you to pick at. But right now, it's a different thing. You submit, and then it's the embassy that now sends you an appointment date. And I'm sorry to say that for Nigeria right now, it's as long as 2025 for appointment dates. But one of the things, again, I'm hoping is that even if you book and you have a long date, because there's a genuine reason for traveling, you probably will have to request for a faster or an earlier date, for interview. So once all that is done, and then the fees in Nigeria is 185. As of about a week or 2 weeks ago, it was being changed at 185,000 naira as local currency, but in dollars is 185. If you get the visa, it's normally like a 5-year. But sometimes because you are going for a specific reason, and because you've not had a travel history, depending on who is interviewing you, might decide, oh, I don't trust to give this person 5 years. I will just give 3 months for the person to go for this program and come back. And then after that, we can trust with more dates. So it's at the discretion of whoever is interviewing you that they decide this is the number of months. But basically, you get 5 years, even if you're a first-time applicant in Nigeria. Can I get the next slide? Okay, so going for an interview, your documents, what do you need? Like Dr. Richard said, you need your bank statements. You need to show evidence that you are, okay, so one of the things I forgot to say, they are going to ask, one of the questions they will ask is, who is sponsoring this trip? And my advice would be to say you are the one, sponsoring it, unless it's an organization that is deciding to send you, or if you have the means, then it would be nice to say I am the one, self-sponsoring myself. So you put in that. So your documents, your statement will have either your business account or your personal account. You can put the two of them together for them to show them that I have the wherewithal. Unfortunately, because our Naira has taken some bashing, before, if you had like 5 million, that would be over like $6,000-7,000. Right now, 5 million is just about $2,000 or $3,000. So you need to take cognizance of this fact that you need to probably have more Naira than before because they will equate whatever Naira value you have in your account with the dollar. So you can't say you are going to the US and whatever you have in account, by the time they are checking it, comes to like $1,000, you know, so all that must be taken into consideration. So you print out your interview appointment page, your DS-160. So it's the same DS-160 that we have everywhere. You print out a confirmation page. You make sure you have your international passport, again, making sure that it's valid for at least 6 months. You have a copy of your data page. You make a photocopy of that. Your payment evidence. So you can pay online as you submit your form, or you can go to a GT Bank and make payment there, or have the evidence of payment. Can we get to the next slide? Okay. Again, your passport picture, there are specific dimensions that has already been, you know, taken care of by the first speaker. And most of the studios in the good photo studios in Nigeria, they already have the dimensions. So when you get in there, tell them, I want to take a picture because I'm going to the passport picture, because I'm going to the US embassy. They know the dimension, they will take it. You make sure that your ears are showing, you're not wearing big earrings and all of that. Like I said, no glasses, you know, your face is clear against, you know, the white background. Again, I put, if possible, a letter from the American Academy. Dr. Levi has to work on that. Bank statements, if you're working with an organization, you need to show your employment letter and a letter from your organization saying that you are allowed to go, you know, for the American Academy conference. You need, if you have title documents, again, like I said, these are all just documents you need to take with you. You might get there on that day and the interviewer will not even bother. He takes a look at you, smiles at you. What's your purpose of traveling to America? You answer 1 or 2 questions. You say, oh, okay, come back for your visa. Or you can get somebody else who is so, you know, stiff and all of that. And he says, okay, let me have this and let me have this and that. So take as many documents as possible. Another thing with the Nigerian embassy, with the American embassy in Nigeria, try as much as possible, do not carry your bags, or for the women especially, there's no need for bags. Take only the documents. Your phones, you can't even take it into the embassy. You have to drop it somewhere. So if you come with your car or you're with somebody, you need to leave your phone. You can't take it into the embassy. So if you have title documents, you have share certificates, anything to prove that you are doing well in Nigeria and you have no reason to go and live in the United States, please take it along. Your CSC certificate, if you are a clinic owner, your practice license, please gather everything together and take with you. And then I think the last slide. No, yes, okay. Arrive on time. I put that in capital letter. So when you're getting an appointment, they normally come in like in 30-minute segments. You know, you can like 7:30, the next is 8, the next is 8:30, the next is 9. So if you like, you come at 6. You are not getting in. If your appointment is 8 a.m., you won't get in until 8 a.m. They'll do it in batches. But please make sure that when your appointment is for 8 a.m., by 7:30, you are close to the point of where they start, you know, the collections and all of that. They start checking your forms to make sure that your letters, that you have an appointment, they check it against their list and all of that. So please make sure you arrive on time. If you come in late, you probably will miss your chance of having an interview. Dress appropriately. It's very important. I don't know, don't come wearing anything funny, you know, just dress. It doesn't have to be a suit, but you look good, look presentable. You know, when you're asked questions, answer as truthfully as possible. And one of the things I said is, there are the documents, when you finish filling the forms, there are documents that show everything you have answered. You are not required to take it inside, but I always keep them as backup, because next time you're filling the form, it makes it easier for you to know this is what I answered. And also that when you are being asked a question, you've reviewed all that you've been asked or you've answered, and you are able to say, okay, this is what I answered. Because it would be funny if you said A and you answered A and what you filled, you know, is different. So I think basically that's all I need to say. If there's any other thing. Oh yes, please do not bring false documents. Do not do anything that will incriminate you. Once that is found out, just know that, you know, your appointment or whatever, your application will be cancelled. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive presentation. Yeah, one of the new things to me was the social media. Now at least we know that whatever we exchange should really, it may not matter right now, but in the future, it may actually be very important towards the application of certain visas. So thank you so much for such a comprehensive presentation. Now we shall go back to the second speaker. Yes, Dr. Okanse, are we set now? Let's,
Yeah, so I sent the presentation to Levi.
okay.
So if you can share the slides.
Great, thank you. I think Dr. Levi will share, and then after that, we shall move on to what I usually refer to as the most interesting part. That's the question and answer session. But yeah, thank you so much. If you're just joining us, don't forget to put your email in the chat box. And thank you so much, Dr. Moretti, for all the detailed information you've shared in the chat. Please keep checking the chat. There's a lot of information which has been posted. Over to you, Doc.
Okay, so thank you very much, and sorry for the technical hitch again. Yeah, so as I was saying, to attend an international conference like the American Academy of Optometry, there are several important steps that you have to take, including preparation of certain documents. First, to obtain your visa, and then also to have a very smooth and enjoyable conference. That there are certain things that you have to do. And I think that my two colleagues have done very much justice to the visa preparation. And so I broken the steps into about 10 or so. And I think the visa process is probably one of the steps. But before we get to the steps, maybe some important information about the next academy. As we all know, usually the academy meetings happen in October or November. And for Academy 2024, which is going to happen in Indianapolis, in Indiana, is happening from November 6th to 9th. And so we need to be very aware of the date so that we can start planning. So as fellows or fellow candidates, even though some of us have just submitted our case reports, I think we have to make a decision whether we'll be attending the next academy meeting in November or not. And if your answer is yes, then you need to start preparations from now. And I think one of the most important things that you have to consider is whether you want to submit an abstract, whether an oral presentation or a poster presentation, because I think that one of the things that we didn't mention, or my colleagues didn't mention, in terms of having a good chance of getting your visa, is if you are making a presentation at the academy. So once you make the decision to attend, I think that I will encourage that you have to start, preparing to probably submit an abstract. Next slide, please. Yes. Then also, so one of the initial things that you have to start thinking about is seeking permission and then support. And here we are talking about permission from your work. So you need to know what are the regulations when it comes to traveling, from work. What does your work, what are the work requirements, and what are the processes that you have to do at work? So you need to start asking about that. You will need letter of support from your work. So you need to inquire about that as well. And then also find out if there are opportunities for travel support or some stipend or allowances by your organization or where you're working. Some of these things may be there, but we may not be aware. So it's very important that you start asking about it once you make the decision that you want to attend an international conference. And then also you can look at the academy itself. The American Academy of Optometry has several opportunities, support for international fellows. So you may want to look at what support is available from the academy. For instance, there is recently introduced international travel support for people from less developed regions like Africa. I think that at the last meeting, about 3 or so, academy members from Africa, secured such funding, about $1,500 or so from the academy. And their academy also offers several awards, some to support research. So for instance, if you are presenting an abstract, you may want to look at some of the opportunities that are available for fellows and then also for fellow candidates. Then also you need to start thinking, I think my 2 colleagues have mentioned it, about funding. And I think it's very key in, first of all, getting your visa, and then also having a good experience at the academy, because the academy, you have to pay for everything, sometimes including the water that you drink, your accommodation, and all that. So you need to start saving if you want to attend in November. If you don't already have some money saved, you have to start thinking how you can make some reasonable amount of money, towards the conference. And then also you'll be building your bank account. So make sure you have a reasonable bank account, which will accompany your visa, right? So the next step. So those are some of the initial thoughts that you may want to think about. But in terms of the steps, to attend the academy, get your document and also your visa, I think the first step is the registration for the academy. And here you may want to seek some more information from the official website of the American Academy. The academy from time to time sends out information to fellows and those who subscribe to their email list. So you may want to visit their website and maybe even subscribe to their email list so that you get information concerning the timelines for registration and information on the conference. Then you need to go on further to register online. You need to complete the online form by providing the necessary personal and professional information. So if you're an optometrist, if you're not an optometrist and you want to attend the conference, I think those are the time that you need to provide those information. And let me also specify that it is not only optometrists that attend the academy meeting. So for those of you, for instance, if you want to attend with a partner, the partner will also have to register for the academy and then pick sections that they will attend. And then once you complete the registration process, you have to pay for the appropriate registration fee, depending on if you are you have full membership of the academy, whether you're a student, whether you are registering early, what we call the early bird discount. So all those status may give you certain discount. And I think from last academy meeting to the African chapter, True Levi and other people were able to secure some, I think, reasonable discount for those from Africa. I don't know whether it applied to the registration for the conference, but I think those all could give you certain leeway in terms of how much you have to pay. And because the academy is in sessions, and depending on what sections, seminars, and workshops you want to attend, there are free ones and some are paid ones. So depending on what you pick, and then it will determine the final fee that you have to pay. And so I think that is very important that we visit the website and get all those information as soon as the registration opens. Next slide, please. So having registered for the academy, having provided all that information for the academy organizers, the next step really is to make travel arrangements. And here, I think that sometimes the confusion is whether you should get your visa first before you make travel arrangements, or you should make the arrangement before you go on and apply for your visa. And I think that technically is this step to do is to first to make your travel arrangements before you apply for the visa. Because if you listen to my other two colleagues, you realize that some of the information and documents that you have to present to support your visa some are your travel arrangement documents. So for instance, you have to book your flights, even if it's not, you don't confirm it, you have to book and make your flight arrangements. So you need to decide on, for instance, which airline you want to travel with. And different airlines comes with different rates. Some airlines fly directly to, to the US, and sometimes, if you are lucky, directly to the city that the conference will be held. And mostly, for most conferences, you may, in the other US cities, except perhaps Washington, Atlanta, or New York, you may have to make at least one stop. So you need to be sure about your travel arrangements, and whether, for instance, you may even have to fly to, Europe or to some Northern America, or, you need to be sure, depending on the cost. And I think that the shorter your flight, or the more direct your flight, probably the more expensive that it may be. And then you need to make arrangements for transportation from the airport to the conference venue, whether, for instance, you use a shared car, whether you use Uber, train, or some other means of transport. You need to be sure, you can go online, you can share information, or ask other colleagues who have, perhaps more travel experience as to what are the best options in terms of, traveling internally in the US and all that, and especially from the airport to the hotel where the conference will be held. Then you need to consider your accommodation options. And I think that here it is advised that if you're a first timer, it's best that you stay close to the conference venue, and you need to, as part of your registration, make reservations for accommodation. And I think that for Indianapolis 2024, my understanding is that the airport, for instance, is about 15 minutes from the headquarters where the academy meeting will be held. And I think that's quite close. And so if you are looking to attend, you may want to look at those options. If you want to book your own hotel as well, you can, even using Google or some accommodation apps and websites and stuff, look at the various options. And the information is that you don't rush in immediately to book when you are not sure. You can speak to other colleagues, get some more information before you finally book your accommodation. And I think that the African Academy Forum is also providing opportunity for people to share rooms. And the last one, I think some people took advantage, and they had their hotel bills quite reduced. So you may want to take advantage of that as well. Okay. Then obviously, the next slide, please. The next step is your visa application. Once you've made arrangements for your flight, accommodation, internal travel, and all that, is to apply for your visa. And I think the other speakers have spoken much on that. You need to decide on what type of visa that you may need. Some people, depending on where they come from and the relationship between their country and the US may not even require a visa. But I think I'm sure for most countries in Africa, we all require a visa to enter the US. And mostly the conditions and the requirements are similar. And I think that the visa mostly requires the B1, B2 type, which Mariki really spoke much well on that. So I wouldn't want to belabor that again. Yeah, so then you must prepare and submit the required documents for the visa application, including your passport, the letter of invitation from the academy. And here you may just want to put in an email to the academy after you had registered. If you haven't registered, the academy may not be in a position to offer you the invitation letter. And it's very useful for you to get a visa. So once you register, you can ask the academy to give you an invitation letter. They may just ask you for certain information, including your address and workplace and all that, and then they will issue you the letter of invitation. Then again, your proof of registration is quite, one of the key documents for the visa process that you have to submit. And then I think they've spoken about the bank account. So your financial documentation is very important. If you are self-financing, you need to produce your bank account. If your organization is sponsoring you, they may have to show a letter, an official letter that says that they are sponsoring you and which aspect of the trip that they are sponsoring. If it's accommodation, they need to be specific. If it's the entire travel, they need to state and say how much that they are sponsoring you. And perhaps if there are evidence of funds transferred to you, you can add that as well. And then I think that I think both speakers also spoke about the time for you to get the visa. I think that even in Ghana now, the last time I checked, the waiting process is close to 2 years. And for most people that were even able to travel last year, I think what we told them was to apply for their priority appointment. And luckily, most of them got it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and all that. If you decide to apply the normal route, I think that may take you a year or more because of, I think the embassy says that they've had a lot of backlog because of the COVID issue that came. So you normally will apply for your normal visa, go through the normal visa process, apply through the DS 160 form. And then during the booking for the appointment, you opt for priority appointment. And then they will ask you to submit certain documentations, including your registration for the conference, which will indicate the conference date. And if they think that if they don't offer you the priority booking, it may go outside the conference date. And they will look at all that evidence, including introduction from your work and all, introductory letter from your work and all that. And they will look at those evidence and grant you the priority booking. So I think that is one thing that we need to be have in mind. Otherwise, we may miss our time to attend the conference. And I think the earlier you apply for the visa to the better. You don't wait till 2 months, 3 months. Some of us, sometimes we want to wait until we have confirmation that we have passed our written papers before we want to decide to attend or not. I think the decision has to come quite early. And like I said from the beginning of the presentation, if you have, made a decision to present an abstract, you need to think about what type of abstract you are presenting, whether paper or oral, poster, or some lecture. I think the academy have opened nominations for people to file for lectures at the conference. So if you have done that, then you need to be sure that you have your lectures being prepared. And the other is to ensure that your abstracts adheres to the specific formats that the academy requires. It's very specific, and If you visit the website, usually it tells you exactly the size of the abstract, how many words, the structure, the title, how many authors, the objectives, and all those things that goes, they're very specific to the academy. So you may want to look at that if you are presenting. Next slide, please. Then I think that I also said, if one of the initial thoughts is funding, it's very, very important. So once you have decided to travel, you need to explore opportunities for funding, and sponsorship to cover your registration fees, travel expenses, and accommodation. Because attending the academy meeting can be very expensive, very, very expensive. So if there's opportunity for support from work and from other organizations, including the academy, you need to exploit that. And then you may also want to contact your institution, professional organization, government agencies, and all those that may be able to offer you support. And if you are presenting an abstract, like I said from the beginning, it gives you a greater chance of, being able to land some of this support, even from your work. If you indicate to them that you have an abstract which has been accepted, they are more likely to give you support than just saying that you're attending the academy. And perhaps those who are fellow candidates, once you pass all your written tests too, I think that is also another grounds to secure funding. You indicate that you have gone through the written processes and you are a candidate for oral exams. That is also another one. Then I think for most of us, we attend the academic conference without having sat down to think about what we want to gain from the conference. And I'm advising that, before having set up all the documents and the preparations and all that, we need to develop a professional plan, in terms of what you want to achieve from the academy. If it is networking, if you want to learn more about some research area, you want to learn about the advancements in optometry, because that is where the cream de la cream, in optometry meets in terms of technology, the people that you have read about and all that. That is where you can find them, so you need to set your objectives, you develop your professional plan. And then you should have also studied the academy conference format and decide which specific sessions, workshops, and presentations that you want to attend, and those that match your professional goals and interests. You need to indicate them and be aware well ahead of time before the conference date. And then very important as well, before you travel out, make sure you have gathered all your materials that you need for the conference. If you want to make some business card, if you are presenting, your slides are intact. If you have printed your posters are all ready, and then you are prepared for the conference as well. So my concluding remarks are that, next slide, please. That if you are able to meticulously follow these steps that we have laid out, and you prepare all your documents according to those requirements, there are only few specific country requirements. Most of them are general and they apply across the various countries. If you're able to do that, I think that you can effectively plan and be able to get your visa to participate in the next academic conference. And I'm sure that, you will have the opportunity to meet all the people that matter in optometry, and you probably want to attend the other future sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so